The crystal chandelier sparkled above the crowded ballroom of the Okonkwo Mansion in Victoria Island, Lagos. Expensive perfumes mixed with the aroma of jollof rice and suya as Nigeria's elite mingled, their laughter echoing off marble floors. Amara moved through the crowd like a ghost, her worn serving uniform a stark contrast to the sea of designer asoebi and glittering jewelry. Her hands trembled slightly as she balanced a tray of champagne glasses. "Watch where you're going, you clumsy fool." Ngozi Okonkwo's shrill voice cut through the music. Before Mara could react, Ngozi deliberately bumped into her, sending red wine cascading down Amara's shoulder. The room fell silent. All eyes turned to them. "She ruined my dress." Ngozi shrieked, pointing at the small wine stain on her expensive lace gown. "Mother, this stupid maid attacked me." Mrs. Okonkwo rushed over, her face twisted with rage. "You worthless girl. Do you know how much that dress costs? More than your entire miserable life." I didn't." Amara's voice broke. "Shut up." Mrs. Okonkwo raised her hand to strike. "That's enough." A deep, authoritative voice froze everyone. A distinguished man in his 50s stepped forward, his tailored ibada commanding respect. Chief Adebayo Olamide, the tech billionaire whose face graced magazine covers across Africa, moved through the parting crowd. "Chief Olamide." Mr. Okonkwo rushed forward, sweating. "Please, don't let this disturbance bother you. Just a clumsy servant." But the chief wasn't listening. His eyes were locked on Amara, specifically on her exposed shoulder, where the wine had soaked through her uniform. There, clear as day, was a birthmark, 3 small dots forming a perfect triangle. His face went pale. His champagne glass slipped from his fingers, shattering on the marble floor. "Impossible," he whispered, his voice shaking. "Kayamaka." The room erupted in confused murmurs. Amara looked up, tears streaming down her face, meeting the chief's intense gaze. Something flickered in her chest, a feeling she couldn't name, like a memory trying to surface from deep underwater. Chief Olamide's hands trembled as he reached toward her. "That birthmark, my daughter, she had the exact same mark." Mrs. Okonkwo laughed nervously. "Chief, surely you're mistaken. This is just a maid from Ajigunle." "Silence." His roar made everyone jump. "What is your name, child?" "Amara, sir," she whispered. "And where were you born?" I don't know, sir. I was raised in an orphanage. They found me there as a baby, 22 years ago, with no name, no family." The chief's eyes filled with tears. 22 years ago, the fire, the night I lost everything." He turned to his assistant, who had followed him. "Tund, call Dr. Adeyemi immediately. I want a DNA test done tonight. Right now." The ballroom exploded in shocked whispers and gasps. Ngozi's face had turned white. "Father, what is he talking about?" Mr. Okonkwo's expression shifted from confusion to dawning horror as he realized what this could mean. But Amara just stood there, wine-soaked and trembling, as the billionaire who could buy and sell the Okonkwos 10 times over knelt before her, actually knelt and took her hands in his. "My daughter disappeared in a fire 22 years ago," he said, his voice breaking. "Everyone told me she was dead, but I never stopped looking. I never stopped hoping. And that birthmark, only 1 in 10,000 people have that pattern." Amara's world tilted. The room spun, and as she looked into the chief's tear-filled eyes, something ancient and buried stirred in her soul, a feeling of home she'd never known she was missing. What was your daughter's name?" she heard herself ask. Chief Olamide smiled through his tears. "Kayamaka. It means God is beautiful. Because when I first held her, I knew God had blessed me with something precious." Hello guys, welcome to my channel. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and share it with your friends. Drop your thoughts and reactions in the comments. What would you have done if this happened to you? Let's get started. The rooster's crow pierced the humid Lagos morning at 4:30 a.m., but Amara was already awake. She had learned long ago that sleeping past 4 a.m. in the Okonkwo household meant punishment. Her small room, barely larger than a storage closet, was tucked behind the main house's kitchen, separated from the family's opulent quarters by worlds of wealth and privilege. She splashed cold water on her face from the bucket in the corner. The bathroom in the main house was forbidden to her, a rule Mrs. Okonkwo enforced with vicious consistency. "You think your dirty village body can touch the same toilet as my family?" she'd once screamed, beating Amara with a wooden spoon. As dawn broke over Victoria Island, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple, Amara began her daily routine. First, she swept the expansive compound, her broom swishing across marble tiles that probably cost more than she'd earned in 5 years. The Okonkwo mansion stood 3 stories tall, a monument to new money and old cruelty, with ornate gates and a fountain that never stopped running. Even during water shortages that plagued the rest of Lagos. "You missed a spot, you illiterate goat." Amara flinched. Ngozi Okonkwo stood on the balcony above, her silk nightgown probably worth more than Amara's entire year's salary of 15,000 naira per month. At 24, Ngozi had never worked a day in her life, spending her time shopping on Victoria Island, posting selfies on Instagram, and making Amara's existence miserable. "Sorry, Ma," Amara murmured, re-sweeping the already clean spot. By 6 a.m., she was in the kitchen, preparing breakfast. The aroma of freshly baked bread mixed with frying plantains and eggs. Her own breakfast would be leftovers, if there were any. "Is this how you cut vegetables in your bush village?" Mrs. Okonkwo appeared like a thundercloud, snatching the knife from Amara's hands. The woman was in her 50s, with skin lightened to an unnatural pallor and a permanent sneer etched into her face. "Stupid girl. The tomatoes must be diced, not chopped. What did they teach you in that orphanage?" "Nothing." She struck Amara across the face with the back of her hand. The familiar sting brought tears to Amara's eyes, but she blinked them back. Crying only made it worse. "I'm sorry, Ma. I'll fix it." "Fix it? You've already wasted my expensive tomatoes." Mrs. Okonkwo grabbed Amara's arm, her manicured nails digging into flesh. "This is coming out of your salary." Again. Amara's salary was already a joke. 15,000 naira monthly, barely enough to survive. And Mrs. Okonkwo found endless reasons to deduct from it. A broken glass that Ngozi broke, missing food that the family ate, electricity bills from rooms only they used. Mr. Okonkwo appeared in the doorway, his portly figure squeezed into an expensive suit. He barely glanced at the scene, long accustomed to his wife's cruelty. "I have a business meeting tonight. Important guests coming. Make sure this girl doesn't embarrass us." "She breathes, and it's embarrassing," Ngozi laughed, entering the kitchen in full makeup. "Look at her, father. Those cheap clothes, that bush hair. How did we end up with such an unfortunate maid?" Amara kept her head down, continuing her work. She'd learned that responding only escalated things. Better to be invisible, to endure, to survive another day. But inside, where they couldn't reach, she held on to her dreams. Dreams of escape, of education, of a life where she mattered. At night, she read donated books by candlelight. Her room didn't have electricity. Teaching herself English, mathematics, anything that might help her escape this prison of servitude. "What's that on your shoulder?" Ngozi suddenly asked, her voice sharp with disgust. Amara touched her left shoulder unconsciously, where 3 small dark marks formed a triangle. Her birthmark, the only thing she'd been born with, according to Sister Mary at the orphanage. "It's just a birthmark, Ma." "It's hideous," Ngozi spat. "Cover it up. I don't want to see that deformity while I'm eating." Amara pulled her sleeve higher, shame burning her cheeks. The birthmark was the only unique thing about her, the only proof she was somebody, even if she didn't know who. Later that afternoon, while cleaning Mr. Okonkwo's study, another forbidden territory, she was only allowed in for cleaning. A newspaper clipping slipped from an old file. Amara picked it up carefully, her eyes widening as she read the faded headline. "Tragic fire at Olamide Estate. Billionaire's wife and daughter feared dead." The date, 22 years ago. There was a photo of a distinguished man holding a baby, his face radiant with joy. The caption read, "Chief Adebayo Olamide with his 3-month-old daughter, Kayamika, weeks before the tragedy." Amara stared at the photo, something stirring in her chest. The baby's chubby arm was visible, and there, she squinted. Was that a birthmark? 3 dots? What are you doing? Mr. Okonkwo's voice boomed behind her. Amara jumped, dropping the clipping. I was just cleaning. Sir, this fell. He snatched it up, his face darkening. You're not paid to read. You're paid to work. Get out. As Amara fled, her heart raced. That baby would be 22 now, the same age as her. That birthmark looked like hers. But it was impossible, wasn't it? She was nobody, nothing, just an orphan from Adjugunal. Still, that night in her tiny room, she couldn't stop thinking about the photo, about the chief's smile, about the baby named Kayamika, a name that meant God is beautiful. She touched her birthmark in the darkness and whispered to herself, who am I really? 3 weeks later, she would have her answer, in the most shocking way imaginable. The penthouse office on the 45th floor of Olamide Towers overlooked Lagos like a kingdom. From this height, the chaos of the city below, the traffic on Eco Bridge, the crowded markets of Lagos Island, the glittering waters of the Atlantic, seemed almost peaceful. But Chief Adebayo Olamide saw none of it. He sat at his mahogany desk, staring at the same photograph he'd looked at every single day for 22 years. His wife, Chinyu, radiant in her traditional wrapper, holding their 3-month-old daughter. Baby Kayamika's tiny fist was raised, as if reaching for the camera. The birthmark on her shoulder was visible, 3 dots forming a perfect triangle. Sir, your 3 p.m. meeting with the Minister of Technology is in 5 minutes, his assistant, Mr. Tund, reminded him gently. Chief Olamide didn't move. At 55, he was still a striking man, tall, broad-shouldered, with gray threading through his hair in distinguished patterns. His tech empire, Olamide Digital Solutions, had spread across West Africa, making him one of the continent's wealthiest men. Forbes estimated his net worth at $2.3 billion. But what good was money when it couldn't buy back what he'd lost? Cancel it, he said quietly. Sir, this is the 3rd meeting you canceled this week. I said cancel it. Chief Olamide's fist hit the desk. Then softer, please, Tund. Not today. Mr. Tund, who had been with the chief for 30 years, understood. Today marked 22 years since the fire. 22 years since Chief Olamide had lost everything that mattered. He'd been at a business conference in Accra when he got the call. Fire at the estate. Electrical fault. His wife's body found in the master bedroom, overcome by smoke. The baby's nursery completely destroyed. No body found. But the investigators said the heat had been so intense. Chief Olamide had never forgiven himself for not being there, for choosing business over family that one time, for not installing better fire suppression systems, for failing to protect them. Sir, Tund said carefully, there's someone here to see you. She says it's about that night. Chief Olamide's head snapped up. What? An elderly woman entered, leaning on a cane. Her face was deeply lined, her hair white as cotton. She wore a simple Ankara dress, and her hands trembled as she approached. Chief Olamide, she said, her voice wavering. You don't remember me. I was one of the night nurses for your daughter. My name is Mama Ikin. Chief Olamide stood slowly, his heart beginning to race. What do you know about that night? Tears filled the old woman's eyes. I've carried this secret for 22 years. I was too afraid to come forward, afraid of questions, afraid of police, afraid of being blamed. But I'm dying now, sir. Cancer. The doctors give me 3 months. I cannot meet my maker with this burden. What secret? Chief Olamide's voice was barely a whisper. I saved her, Mama Ikin said. I saved baby Kayamika. The room tilted. Chief Olamide gripped his desk for support. What did you say? The fire started in the east wing. I was in the nursery when I smelled smoke. I grabbed the baby and ran. The smoke was so thick, the confusion so terrible. Madame Chinyu must have gone looking for the baby, not knowing I already had her. By the time I got outside, the entire estate was engulfed. I screamed for help, but everyone was trying to save Madame. I was just a servant. Nobody listened to me. Where is she? Chief Olamide grabbed the old woman's shoulders. Where's my daughter? I panicked, sir. I had no family, no papers for the child. The fire was being investigated. I was terrified they'd think I kidnapped her or blame me for not saving Madam. So I took her to St. Joseph's orphanage in Adjugunal. I left her at the door with a note saying I'd found her abandoned. Then I ran. I left Lagos entirely, went to my village in Enugu. I've been living with this guilt ever since. Chief Olamide's legs gave out. He collapsed into his chair, his entire body shaking. My daughter, my Kayamak, alive? I don't know what happened to her after that, sir. The orphanage might have records. She had the birthmark, the 3 dots on her left shoulder. That's how you'll know her. Tun was already on the phone. Get me every private investigator in Lagos. Now! Chief Olamide looked at Mama Ikin through tears. Why? Why did you wait so long? Fear, sir. Shame. Cowardice. The old woman wept. I thought I was saving her, but I took her from her father. I stole 22 years from both of you. I know you cannot forgive me. Did you keep her alive that night? Chief Olamide asked. Yes, sir. Then you saved the most precious thing in my world. He stood, taking her wrinkled hands in his. Whatever happens, whatever we find, I will make sure your last days are comfortable. You will have the best medical care money can buy. Within hours, Chief Olamide's team descended on St. Joseph's orphanage in Adjugunal. The facility was run down, barely standing, its records a mess of water-damaged ledgers and incomplete files. But they found something. Sir, one of the investigators reported, 22 years ago, a baby girl was left here, approximately 3 months old. No name, no background. The nuns named her Amara, meaning grace. She stayed here until she was 18, then was placed in domestic service. Where? Chief Olamide demanded. Where is she now? The records show she was placed with a family in Victoria Island, the Okonkwo family. Chief Olamide froze. Okonkwo? Chief Emeka Okonkwo? The import-export businessman. Yes, sir. You know him? Know him? Chief Olamide had met with Okonkwo several times about potential business ventures. He'd even been invited to their home for a party happening in 3 weeks. Find out everything about this girl called Amara, Chief Olamide ordered. But be discreet. If she's my daughter, I won't have her learning about this from strangers. For the first time in 22 years, Chief Adebayo Olamide felt something he thought had died in the fire. Hope. The next 3 weeks were agony. His investigators reported back. Amara, 22 years old, worked as a housemaid for the Okonkwos. No formal education beyond primary school. No known family. Quiet, hard-working, kept to herself. Sir, Tun said carefully one evening, we've observed the household. The girl, she's not treated well. The family is quite cruel to her. Chief Olamide's jaw clenched. If this girl was his Kayamaka, if his daughter had spent 22 years suffering while he lived in luxury. Get Dr. Adeyemi on standby, he said. The Okonkwo party is in 2 days. I'm going to meet this girl myself. If she has the birthmark, we'll do a DNA test immediately. And if it's positive, sir? Chief Olamide looked out at Lagos, the city where he'd built an empire, the city that had taken everything and might, just might, be giving it back. Then the Okonkwos will learn what it means to mistreat a billionaire's daughter. He returned to his desk, opening the drawer where he kept Kayamika's baby blanket, the only thing salvaged from fire. He held it to his face, inhaling deeply, though any scent of his daughter had long since faded. I'm coming for you, Kayamika, he whispered. Daddy's finally coming for you. The Okonkwo mansion had been transformed into a palace of excess. String lights wrapped around palm trees, a live band played on a raised platform, and tables grown under the weight of pounded yam, egusi soup, pepper soup, suya, and imported champagne. Amara had been working for 18 hours straight. Her feet ached, her back screamed, and her fingers were raw from washing dishes and preparing food. But the party was just beginning. Amara, where is that useless girl? Mrs. Okonkwo's voice echoed across the compound. Amara rushed out, her worn uniform, the same one she'd had for 3 years, stained with food and sweat. Yes, Ma. Take this tray of drinks to the guests. And for God's sake, try not to look so pathetic. Important people are here tonight. The ballroom was packed with Lego society, politicians, business moguls, socialites in designer clothes that cost more than Amara would earn in 10 lifetimes. She moved the crowd like a shadow, offering champagne, enduring the occasional dismissive wave or complete ignorance of her presence. She was invisible here, just a servant, just nobody. Is that Alhaji Muhammad? I must introduce him to Chief Olamide. Mr. Okonkwo's voice boomed nearby. Amara's hand trembled slightly. Chief Olamide, the name from the newspaper clipping she couldn't stop thinking about. Was he here? The billionaire whose daughter had died in a fire 22 years ago? Amara, you stupid girl, why are you standing there like a statue? Ngozi appeared, resplendent in a gold-laced dress that probably cost 500,000 naira. Go get more wine. The red one from Father's private collection. Amara nodded and turned, but Ngozi wasn't finished. Actually, wait. Ngozi's eyes gleamed with malice. I want to introduce you to someone special. Tund, come here. A young man approached, handsome, well-dressed, clearly from money. Yes, my dear? This is our maid, Amara. Doesn't she look like exactly the type of girl who'd steal from her employers? Amara's blood ran cold. I've never stolen anything, Ma. Oh, really? Ngozi's voice rose, attracting attention. Then explain how my diamond earrings went missing last week. I don't know anything about your earrings, Ma. I swear. Liar. Ngozi suddenly grabbed a glass of red wine from a passing tray and threw it directly at Amara. The wine splashed across Amara's shoulder and chest, the cold liquid seeping through her uniform. Gasps rippled through nearby guests. The band faltered, music dying mid-note. She attacked me. Ngozi shrieked, clutching her dress where a few drops of wine had splashed. This animal tried to ruin my dress. Mother, father, someone help. Mrs. Okonkwo pushed through the crowd, her face twisted with rage. You worthless creature. How dare you assault my daughter? I didn't. She threw the wine at me. Shut your lying mouth. Mrs. Okonkwo raised her hand to strike. The entire ballroom had gone silent now. 100 pairs of eyes watched as the wealthy matron prepared to beat her maid in front of Lagos's elite. Some looked uncomfortable, but most seemed merely curious, like this was just entertainment. Amara closed her eyes, bracing for the blow. That's enough. The voice was deep, commanding, absolute. It cut through the room like a blade. Amara opened her eyes to see a man stepping forward. He was tall, distinguished, with gray-threaded hair and eyes that blazed with barely contained fury. His agbada was impeccably tailored, his presence commanding instant respect. Chief Adebayo Olamide. Chief Olamide. Mr. Okonkwo rushed forward, sweat beading on his forehead. Please, this is just a small domestic matter. A clumsy servant. I asked you to stop. Chief Olamide's voice was ice. His eyes never left Amara's face. More specifically, they were locked on her shoulder. The wine had soaked through Amara's uniform, making the thin fabric cling to her skin. And there, clearly visible through the wet material, was her birthmark. 3 dots, forming a perfect triangle. Chief Olamide went utterly still. The champagne glass in his hand began to shake. His face drained of color, going from brown to ashen in seconds. No, he whispered. It can't be. The glass slipped from his fingers, shattering on the marble floor with a crash that made everyone jump. Chief, are you all right? Mr. Okonkwo reached out, but Chief Olamide brushed past him, walking directly toward Amara. Amara stood frozen, wine-soaked and trembling, as this powerful man approached. His eyes were strange, intense, searching, filled with something she couldn't name. When he was close enough that she could see the gold flecks in his brown eyes, he stopped. Your shoulder, he said, his voice breaking. That mark. Where did you get it? I was born with it, sir. Amara whispered. born with it. He seemed to be struggling to breathe. What is your name? Amara, sir. Amara. He tested the word. And your family? Your parents? I don't have any, sir. I was raised in an orphanage. St. Joseph's in Adjugunle. The room erupted in whispers. Mrs. Okonkwo tried to intervene. Chief Olamide, surely you're not interested in the background of common Maid. Silence. His roar made everyone jump back. This girl is not common. This girl is... He turned back to Amara, tears now streaming freely down his face. How old are you? 22, sir. 22. His voice cracked completely. The same age. The same birthmark. St. Joseph's Orphanage, where Mama Ekin said. He reached out slowly, giving Amara time to pull away as she wanted. When she didn't move, he gently touched her shoulder where the birthmark was visible through her wet uniform. My daughter, he whispered. My Kayamaka had this exact mark. 3 dots in a triangle. A rare pattern. Only 1 in 10,000 people have it. She disappeared in a fire 22 years ago. Everyone told me she was dead, but I never stopped looking. I never stopped hoping. The ballroom was utterly silent now. Even Ngozi had stopped her theatrical crying. Amara's world was spinning. Sir, I don't understand. Tund. Chief Olamide shouted. His assistant rushed forward. Call Dr. Adeyemi immediately. I want a DNA test done tonight. Right now. This instant. Yes, sir. Chief Olamide turned back to Amara, and then, in a moment that would be talked about in Lagos society for years, this billionaire, this titan of African business, this man who had built an empire, dropped to his knees before Maid. Forgive me, he said, his voice raw with emotion. Forgive me for not finding you sooner. For every day you suffered while I lived in luxury. For every moment you spent thinking you were alone. If you are my Kayamaka, and my heart knows you are, then I have failed you for 22 years. Amara couldn't breathe, couldn't think. This couldn't be real. Things like this didn't happen to girls like her. She was nobody, nothing, just an orphan, just a maid, just... What was your daughter's name? She heard herself ask. Chief Olamide smiled through his tears. Kayamaka. In Igbo, it means God is beautiful. Because when I first held her, when I looked at her perfect little face and that distinctive birthmark on her shoulder, I knew that God had blessed me with something truly beautiful. Something inside Amara cracked. A dam she didn't know she'd built around her heart. I've always felt incomplete, she whispered. Like there was a hole inside me shaped like something I'd lost but couldn't remember. Like I belonged somewhere else with someone else. I thought I was crazy for feeling that way. You're not crazy. Chief Olamide stood, taking both her hands in his. You were stolen from me. By fate, by fire, by circumstance. But if you are my daughter, Kayamaka, if God has given me this miracle, then I swear on everything I hold sacred that you will never suffer again. Never be alone again. Never wonder who you are again. Behind them, the Okonkwo family stood in various states of shock. Mr. Okonkwo's face had gone the color of old ash. Mrs. Okonkwo's mouth open and closed like a fish gasping for air. Ngozi looked like she might vomit. They had just realized they'd been torturing, humiliating, and abusing a billionaire's daughter. Dr. Adeyemi arrived within 30 minutes, bringing a portable DNA testing kit. The party had essentially stopped, though no one left. They were all too desperate to witness history being made. The doctor took samples efficiently. A cheek swab from Amara, another from Chief Olamide. I'll have preliminary results in 24 hours, complete confirmation in 72. Work through the night if you have to, Chief Olamide ordered. Money is no object. As the doctor left, Chief Olamide turned to Mr. Okonkwo. This girl will be leaving with me tonight. She will stay at my home until we have the results. Of course, Chief. Of course. Mr. Okonkwo was practically vibrating with panic. We had no idea, if we'd known. If you'd known she was somebody, you would have treated her like a human being? Chief Olamide's voice was deadly quiet. But because you thought she was nobody, you felt entitled to abuse her? To humiliate her? To beat her? He turned to Amara. Did they beat you? Amara hesitated, then slowly nodded. The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Chief Olamide's expression was terrifying in its calmness. "We will discuss this further once the results are confirmed," he said to the Okonkwo's. "In the meantime, I suggest you pray that this girl is not my daughter, because if she is, I will dedicate every resource I have to ensuring that people like you never harm another vulnerable person again." He turned to Amara, his expression softening. "Get your things. You're coming home." I don't have any things, sir. Just a bag with some clothes and books." Chief Olamide's jaw clenched. 22 years old, and everything she owned fit in one bag. "Then we'll get you new things. Everything you need. Everything you deserve." He offered his arm. "Come, Amara, let's leave this place." As Amara took his arm, her hand still shaking, her mind still reeling, she looked back one last time at the Okonkwo family, at Ngozi, who had mocked her appearance, at Mrs. Okonkwo, who had beaten her for sport, at Mr. Okonkwo, who had allowed it all. For the first time in her life, Amara didn't look away first. The mighty Chief Adebayo Olamide led her through the parted crowd, past the shocked faces and whispered conversations, out of the mansion where she'd been a slave, and toward a sleek Mercedes with a driver holding the door open. "Is this real?" Amara whispered as she slid into leather seats softer than any bed she'd ever known. Chief Olamide sat beside her, still holding her hand. "In 24 hours, we'll know for certain. But Amara, I need you to understand something. DNA test or not, birthmark or not, I have been searching for my daughter for 22 years. I have looked into 10,000 faces, hoping to see her. And when I saw you tonight, when I saw that mark, when I heard your story, my soul recognized you. Do you understand? Even if science says otherwise, my heart already knows." Tears streamed down Amara's face. She had spent her entire life believing she was unwanted, believing she'd been abandoned because she wasn't worth keeping, believing she was fundamentally unlovable. And now this man, this powerful, wealthy, important man, was telling her she'd been searched for, longed for, loved from afar by someone who'd never even known if she was alive. "What if I'm not her?" Amara asked. "What if the test says I'm not Kayamika?" Chief Olamide squeezed her hand. "Then you are still a young woman who deserves kindness, opportunity, and respect. And I will still make sure you get those things. But Amara," his voice dropped to a whisper, "I know my daughter, and I know you are her." As the Mercedes pulled away from the Okonkwo mansion, Amara looked back one final time at her prison. Then she turned forward, toward whatever this new future held, and felt something she hadn't felt in 22 years. She felt like maybe, just maybe, she was going home. The next 24 hours felt like a dream Amara was afraid to wake from. Chief Olamide's home. Calling it a house felt like calling the Atlantic Ocean a puddle. Sprawled across 5 acres in Ikoyi, Lagos's most exclusive neighborhood. The mansion had 12 bedrooms, a swimming pool, a private cinema, and staff who actually smiled at her. "Miss Amara, would you like breakfast in your room or the dining area?" A kind woman named Blessing asked. "Miss Amara, not you or girl or stupid creature. Miss Amara, I can eat in the dining room?" Amara asked uncertainly. Blessing looked confused. "Of course, Mississippi. You're chief's guest. You can eat wherever you like." The bedroom they'd given her was larger than the entire quarters she'd shared with 3 other servants at the orphanage. The bed was enormous, covered in soft linens that felt like clouds. There was an ensuite bathroom with hot water, actual hot water that came from taps, and towels so fluffy she'd initially thought they were decorative. She cried in the shower that first night, letting hot water wash away years of cold bucket baths, scrubbing off not just dirt but the feeling of worthlessness that clung to her skin like grime. Chief Olamide had been attentive but careful, clearly trying not to overwhelm her. They'd had dinner together, just the 2 of them at a table that could seat 20. "Tell me about yourself," he'd said gently. "Everything. I want to know the woman you become." So Amara told him about the orphanage, where Sister Mary had been kind but resources were scarce, about learning to read by candlelight, devouring any book she could find, about dreaming of going to university someday, maybe studying literature or social work, about the Okonkwo's. Though she softened the worst of it, what was the point of dwelling on cruelty now? But Chief Olamide was perceptive. They beat you. It wasn't a question. Sometimes, Amara admitted, when I made mistakes, broke things. Mrs. Okonkwo has a terrible temper. And the daughter? Ngozi. She enjoyed making me feel small. But words can't really hurt you, can they? Amara tried to smile. Yes, Chief Olamide said firmly. They can. They do. And both forms of abuse are unforgivable. He told her about her mother, Chinyu, who'd been a lawyer and human rights activist. She was fierce, he said, smiling at the memory. Beautiful and brilliant and passionate about justice. She would have loved you so much, Kayamika. Amara, she corrected automatically. I'm still just Amara until we know for certain, he agreed. But may I tell you something? The name Amara means grace in Igbo, and Kayamika means God is beautiful. Both names speak to divine favor, to blessing. Perhaps the nuns who named you were inspired, without knowing why. Perhaps God was leaving breadcrumbs leading you back home. Now, standing in this beautiful bedroom as morning light streamed through floor-to-ceiling windows, Amara heard a knock. Come in, she called. Tund entered, his expression carefully neutral. Miss Amara, Dr. Adeyemi is here with the preliminary results. Chief Olamide asks if you'll join him in his study. This was it, the moment that would define everything. Amara's legs trembled as she followed Tund through marble hallways adorned with African art. Sculptures from Benin, paintings from contemporary Nigerian artists, masks from various tribes. This was a home that celebrated heritage, that honored where it came from. Chief Olamide stood by his study window, looking out at the compound. He turned as she entered, and she saw naked hope and fear warring on his face. Dr. Adeyemi sat in a leather chair, a manila folder on his lap. He stood as Amara entered. Good morning, Miss Amara. Please, Chief Olamide said, gesturing to a chair. Sit, both of you. Amara sat, her heart hammering so hard she thought it might burst through her chest. Chief Olamide moved to stand behind her chair, his hand resting gently on her shoulder, near her birthmark, as if drawing strength from it. Dr. Adeyemi, Chief Olamide said, his voice rough. What do the results say? The doctor opened the folder, but he was already smiling. Chief, the preliminary DNA analysis shows a 99.97% probability of paternity. The complete results will take another day or two, but I can say with medical certainty. He looked at Amara, his eyes kind. You are Chief Olamide's biological daughter. The world stopped. Then Chief Olamide's hand tightened on Amara's shoulder, and she heard a sound she'd never expected. This powerful man sobbing. Great, gasping sobs of joy and relief and grief and love all mixed together. Kayamika, he said, coming around the chair to kneel before her again. My Kayamika, my daughter, my baby girl, you're alive. You're here. You're home. And Amara, Kayamika, broke. 22 years of holding herself together, of being strong, of surviving, shattered. She collapsed into her father's arms and wept like the baby she'd once been, the child she'd never gotten to be, the daughter who'd been lost and was now found. Daddy, she whispered, testing the word. It felt foreign and perfect at the same time. Daddy. I'm here, he said, holding her tight. I'm here, and I'm never letting you go again. Never. They held each other for a long time while Dr. Adeyemi and Tund quietly left the room, giving them privacy for this sacred moment. Finally, Chief Olamide pulled back, framing Kayamika's face in his hands. You have your mother's eyes, he said wonderingly. I see Chinyu in you. She would be so proud of the woman you become. So strong, so resilient. I didn't feel strong, Kayamika admitted. I felt broken most of the time. Broken things that heal become stronger at the fracture points, her father said. You survived hell, Kayamika. You survived it with your humanity intact, your dreams alive, your spirit undefeated. That's not just strong, that's extraordinary. Over the next few hours, Chief Olamide showed Kayamika everything. Her mother's belongings, carefully preserved jewelry, clothes, photographs. The nursery that had been rebuilt and maintained for 22 years, kept exactly as it had been, a shrine to hope. I always believed, Chief Olamide said, standing in the doorway of the pink and yellow room. Everyone told me to move on, to accept that you were gone. But I couldn't. I wouldn't. Something inside me insisted you were alive somewhere. He showed her photographs, her grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, a whole family she'd never known existed. They'll want to meet you, he said, when you're ready. There's no rush. We'll take everything at your pace. But Kayamika's mind was spinning with questions. Why? She finally asked. Why did Mama Ikin leave me at the orphanage? Why didn't she tell anyone? Chief Olamide's expression darkened. Fear. She panicked. And I blame myself. I've been so focused on security for business threats that my household staff were terrified of police, of investigations. She thought she'd be blamed for the fire, for your mother's death. So she ran and she took you with her. Is she? Alive, yes, in a private hospital, receiving the best care money can provide. She's dying, Kayamika, but at least she'll die with her conscience clear. And despite everything, I'm grateful to her. She saved your life that night. What about the Okonkwo's? Kayamika asked quietly. Her father's expression became glacial. What about them? What will happen to them? Chief Olamide walked to his desk, pulling out a thick file. I've been gathering information. The Okonkwo's run their import business through several channels I have influence over. Their line of credit? Through a bank I'm a major shareholder in. Their social standing? Built on connections with people who consider me a friend. He looked at Kayamika. I can destroy them. Completely. Make them feel every bit of powerlessness and humiliation they made you feel. Is that what you want? Kayamika thought about Mrs. Okonkwo's cruel hands, Ngozi's mocking laughter, the years of being made to feel worthless. Part of her, the wounded, angry part, wanted them to suffer, but another part remembered Sister Mary of the orphanage saying, "Revenge is a poison you drink hoping it will hurt someone else." I want them to understand what they did was wrong, Kayamika said slowly. I want them to face consequences, but I don't want to become like them. I don't want cruelty to define me. Chief Olamide smiled, pride shining in his eyes. You are your mother's daughter. She always chose justice over vengeance, too. He paused. But justice doesn't mean letting them off easily. What if we use this to make real change? What do you mean? Nigeria has millions of domestic workers, mostly young women and girls, who are vulnerable to abuse. What if we use your story, your experience, to advocate for their rights? Better wages, legal protections, oversight. We could establish a foundation in your mother's name. Transform your pain into something that helps others. Kayamika felt something shift in her chest, a sense of purpose clicking into place. I'd like that. But what about the Okonkwo specifically? Leave them to me, Chief Olamide said. They'll face social consequences. Lagos society doesn't forgive people who mistreat those they consider beneath them, especially when it turns out that person wasn't beneath them at all. Their business will suffer. Their reputation will suffer. But we won't actively destroy them. We'll simply remove our protection and let natural consequences occur. He leaned forward. But, Kayamika, you need to understand something. The moment I announce you as my daughter, and I will announce it, your life will change completely. Media attention, social pressure, people trying to use you or befriend you for access to me. It won't be easy. Will you be there? Kayamika asked. Through all of it? Every step, he promised. And I'm hiring you a security team, a personal assistant, and a therapist. What you've been through, that's trauma, Kayamika. You'll need support processing it. A therapist? Mental health is just as important as physical health. I've been in therapy for 22 years, working through the grief of losing you and your mother. There's no shame in it. And you survived abuse that would break most people. Let us help you heal properly. Kayamika nodded slowly. Everything was happening so fast, but somehow it felt right. like pieces of a puzzle finally sliding into place. "When will you announce it?" she asked. Chief Olamide smiled. "There's a major tech conference tomorrow, Pan-African Digital Summit. Heads of state, business leaders, media from across the continent. I'm the keynote speaker." His eyes gleamed. "I can think of no better place to tell the world that my daughter has come home." That evening, they had dinner with some of Chief Olamide's closest friends and advisors. They treated Kayamika with warmth and genuine welcome, sharing stories about her father, about her mother, about the family legacy she was stepping into. "Your mother helped write some of Nigeria's first domestic workers' rights legislation," one lawyer told her. "It was defeated in committee, but she never stopped fighting. She'd be so proud that you want to continue her work." Later, as Kayamika prepared for bed in her beautiful room, she found a box on her pillow. Inside was a delicate gold necklace with a pendant, the letter C surrounded by tiny diamonds. A note in her father's handwriting read, "This was your mother's. She wore it every day. She wanted you to have it when you were old enough. Welcome home, Kayamika. You are loved. You are wanted. You are precious. You always have been. Daddy." Kayamika fastened the necklace around her neck and looked at herself in the mirror. Same face she'd always had, same eyes, same birthmark. But everything was different now. She wasn't Amara the orphan, Amara the maid, Amara the nobody. She was Kayamika Olamide, daughter, heir, beloved. She touched the pendant and smiled through her tears. Tomorrow, the world would know. Tomorrow, everything would change. But tonight, she was simply a daughter who'd finally come home. The Pan-African Digital Summit was held at the Eco Hotels and Suites, the grand ballroom packed with over 2,000 delegates from across the continent. Presidents, tech entrepreneurs, ministers, journalists. Everyone who was anyone in African technology and business had come to hear Chief Adabel Olamide's keynote address on building Africa's digital future. They had no idea they were about to witness history. Kayamika sat in the front row, wearing an elegant blue Ankara dress that her father had commissioned from a top designer overnight. Her hair had been professionally styled, makeup applied by experts. But despite the glamorous transformation, her hands trembled in her lap. "You don't have to do this," her father had said that morning. "We can announce it privately. Let the news filter out gradually." But Kayamika had shaken her head. "No, I want to do this your way. Publicly, proudly. I've spent my whole life being invisible. I want to be seen." Now, as her father took the stage to thunderous applause, she felt her heart racing. Several rows back, she could see the Okonkwo family. Her father had sent them personal invitations, a move that had confused them but which they couldn't refuse without seeming disrespectful. Mrs. Okonkwo kept glancing nervously at Kayamika, clearly unsure what was coming but certain it wasn't good. Chief Olamide began his speech, discussing technology infrastructure, digital literacy, and African innovation. He was eloquent and commanding, holding the room's attention effortlessly. But 20 minutes in, his tone shifted. "Today, however, I want to talk about something more personal," he said, "because technology and business mean nothing if we forget our humanity. If we forget that behind every success story, every statistic, every economic indicator, there are real people with real lives." The room quieted, sensing something significant coming. 22 years ago, I lost everything that mattered to me. A fire took my wife, Chinyu, a brilliant lawyer and human rights activist. It also took my 3-month-old daughter, Kayamika, or so I believed. Murmurs rippled through the audience. Everyone knew this story. It was part Chief Olamide's legend, the tragedy that humanized the billionaire. For 22 years, I searched for my daughter. I never believed she was dead, though everyone told me to accept it. I hired investigators, followed every lead, refused to give up hope. And 3 days ago, his voice cracked with emotion. 3 days ago, I found her. The ballroom erupted in gasps and whispers. Cameras flashed. Journalists frantically typed on their devices. My daughter survived the fire. She was saved by a brave woman who panicked and left her at an orphanage, thinking she was protecting her. My daughter, my Kayamika, spent 22 years believing she was unwanted, abandoned, alone. She grew up in poverty while I lived in luxury. She suffered while I searched. She survived abuse while I built an empire. Chief Olamide's eyes found Kayamika's, and he gestured for her to join him on stage. "Kayamika, please, come." Kayamika's legs felt like water, but she stood. As she walked toward the stage, 2,000 people rose to their feet in spontaneous applause. The ovation was deafening. When she reached her father, he took her hand and turned back to the audience. "This is my daughter, Kayamika Olamide. DNA has confirmed what my heart already knew the moment I saw her. She bears the same distinctive birthmark her mother photographed when she was 3 months old, and she carries her mother's spirit, Chinyu's strength, her compassion, her commitment to justice." He turned to Kayamika, speaking to her but into the microphone so everyone could hear. "You spent the last 4 years working as a domestic servant for a wealthy family. You were paid starvation wages, denied education, beaten and humiliated regularly, not because you were incompetent or deserving of such treatment, but because you were vulnerable and powerless." The room had gone silent. Several rows back, Mrs. Okonkwo had gone pale as death. "My daughter's experience is not unique," Chief Olamide continued, addressing the audience again. "Across Nigeria, across Africa, millions of domestic workers, mostly young women and girls, suffer similar abuse. They work 18-hour days for pennies. They're denied basic rights, basic dignity, basic humanity. And why? Because they're poor? Because they're orphaned? Because they have no one powerful to protect them?" His voice rose with passion. "What would have happened to my daughter if I hadn't found her? She would have continued suffering, continued being treated as less than human until her spirit broke or her body gave out. And no one would have cared. No one would have noticed. She would have been just another nameless victim of a system that treats poverty like a crime." Kayamika felt tears streaming down her face. Her father squeezed her hand. "So today, I'm announcing the Chinyu Olamide Foundation for Domestic Workers' Rights. My daughter will serve as its director. We will fight for living wages, for legal protections, for education opportunities. We will shine a light on abuse and hold abusers accountable. We will make sure that every girl, every young woman, every vulnerable person in domestic service knows that they are somebody, that they matter, that they deserve dignity and respect regardless of their circumstances." The applause was thunderous. People were crying openly. Several domestic workers in the service areas of the hotel had gathered at the edges of the ballroom, and they were embracing each other, weeping with joy. Chief Olamide let the applause die down before speaking again, his tone now harder. "And to those who abuse their power, who mistreat those they consider beneath them, understand this. You never know who someone might become. You never know whose daughter, whose sister, whose future leader you're crushing under your cruelty. The girl you mock today might be the woman who changes the world tomorrow. Treat everyone with dignity, not because of who they might be, but because of who you should be." His eyes found the Okonkwo family. He didn't name them, didn't point, but everyone in Lagos society knew. The whispers had already spread. The Okonkwos would never live this down. After the speech, they were mobbed by well-wishers, journalists, and advocates. President Tinubu himself came to embrace Kayamika and pledge government support for the foundation. The CEO of a major African bank committed 50 million naira in funding on the spot. But the most meaningful moment came when a young woman in a service uniform approached hesitantly. "Miss Kayamika, I'm Sarah. I work in housekeeping here. I just wanted to say, thank you. My employer hits me when I break things. I thought it was normal. I thought I deserved it because I'm just a maid. But hearing your story, maybe I don't have to accept it." Kayamika took Sarah's hands. "You don't. And if you give me your information, the foundation will help you. Legal support, job placement, whatever you need. You are not just a maid. You are a human being who deserves respect." Sarah burst into tears and hugged her, and in that moment, Kayamika understood her purpose with perfect clarity. Over the following weeks, the story dominated African media. CNN, BBC, Al Jazeera. Everyone wanted to interview the billionaire's lost daughter. Kayamika did select interviews, using each platform to advocate for vulnerable workers. The Chinyu Olamide Foundation launched with an initial 500 million naira in funding. They established a hotline for domestic workers to report abuse, partnered with legal aid organizations, and began pushing for legislation to protect domestic workers' rights. The Okonkwo family faced exactly the consequences Chief Olamide had predicted. Their business partners quietly withdrew. Social invitations dried up. Their credit lines were mysteriously under review. They weren't destroyed. Chief Olamide had kept his word about that, but they were diminished, reduced from social elite to cautionary tale. Ngozi posted a public apology on Instagram that felt more calculated than genuine. I deeply regret my past behavior and am committed to being a better person. The comments section was brutal. Mrs. Okonkwo tried to reach out through intermediaries, seeking reconciliation. Kayamika sent back a simple message. I forgive you because holding on to anger would poison me, not you. But forgiveness doesn't mean reconciliation. I hope you learn to treat people better. That's all. The most shocking development came from an unexpected source. Mama Ikin, the woman who had saved Kayamika as a baby, passed away 6 weeks after the announcement. But before she died, she recorded a video message. Kayamika, the old woman said, her voice weak but clear, I want you to know that carrying you out of that fire was the most important thing I ever did. I made terrible choices afterward, choices born of fear and ignorance. But saving you, that was right. That was good. Seeing you reunited with your father, seeing you use your experience to help others. I can die knowing that God used even my mistakes for good. Thank you for forgiving a foolish old woman. Thank you for becoming someone your mother would be proud of. Kayamika wept watching it. Her father held her as she grieved for a woman she barely knew but who had given her life twice, once by carrying her from the fire, and once by finally revealing the truth. Kayamika enrolled at the University of Lagos, studying social work and public policy. Her father wanted to pay for private tutors, but she insisted on attending regular classes with other students. I don't want to be separate from normal life, she explained. I need to understand the people I'm trying to help. I need to stay grounded. She excelled academically while managing the foundation. She was often seen on campus in simple clothes, carrying her own books, eating in the cafeteria with students who had no idea they were sharing jollof rice with one of Nigeria's wealthiest heiresses. A year after her identity was revealed, Kayamika stood before the Nigerian National Assembly, testifying in support of the Domestic Workers' Rights Bill, legislation her mother had fought for decades earlier. My name is Kayamika Olamide, she began. Some of you know me as the billionaire's lost daughter. But before I was found, I was Amara, a housemaid who earned 15,000 naira per month for 18-hour workdays. I was beaten for breaking dishes, humiliated for sport, denied education and dignity, not because I was incompetent, but because I was powerless. She looked at the assembled legislators. This bill isn't about me. I'm safe now. I'm privileged now. This is about the millions of young women and men who are still where I was, vulnerable, voiceless, and victims of a system that treats them as less than human. Pass this bill not as a favor to me or my father, but because it's right, because dignity isn't something people should have to earn. It's something they should receive simply by virtue of being human. The bill passed with overwhelming support. News outlets called it the Kayamika effect, the phenomenon of her story catalyzing real social change. 2 years after being found, Kayamika stood at the launch of the Foundation's tent shelter for domestic workers escaping abusive situations. Her father stood beside her, beaming with pride. You've helped over 5,000 people in 2 years, he said. Your mother would be so proud. I couldn't have done it without you, Kayamika replied. Without your resources, your platform, your support. No, Chief Olamide shook his head. Money and platform are tools. But the vision, the passion, the empathy, that's all you. That's who you are, Kayamika. That's who you've always been, even when the world tried to convince you otherwise. That evening, at a family dinner with aunts, uncles, and cousins who'd embraced her as one of their own, Kayamika reflected on her journey. From orphan to maid to heiress to advocate, from powerless to powerful, from lost to found. But the most important transformation wasn't in her circumstances. It was in her understanding of her own worth. She touched the necklace with her mother's initial that she wore every day in the candlelight. It caught the light the same way her birthmark did. 3 dots forming a triangle, the mark that had led her father back to her. "What are you thinking about?" her cousin Adiz asked. Kayamika smiled. "I'm thinking about how everyone who humiliated me thought I was nobody. And maybe, by the world's standards, I was just an orphan maid with no family, no money, no prospects. But," Adiz prompted, "but I was always somebody." Kayamika said softly, "I was always me. My worth wasn't defined by whether anyone acknowledged it. And now I get to spend my life making sure other people understand that about themselves. That there's somebody even when the world treats them like nobody. That their value is inherent, not assigned." Her father, overhearing, raised his glass. "To Kayamika, my daughter, my miracle, my proof that what is lost can be found, what is broken can be healed, and what seems like an ending can actually be a beginning." "To Kayamika," everyone echoed. But Kayamika raised her own glass with a different toast. "To everyone who's still waiting to be found, still fighting to be seen, still believing they matter despite what the world tells them. May they know what I learned, that sometimes what made everyone mocked and humiliated isn't just a billionaire's lost daughter. She's her own person with her own value, with her own power to change the world. To everyone still searching for home, may you find it. May you find yourself. And may you find your purpose." As glasses clinked and laughter filled the room, Kayamika looked around at her family, the one she'd found and the legacy she was building. She thought about Mrs. Okonkwo's cruel hands and Ngozi's mocking laughter, and she felt nothing but pity for people so broken. They could only feel big by making others feel small. She thought about Amara, the girl she'd been, and silently thanked her for surviving long enough to become Kayamika. Most of all, she thought about the thousands of young women and men she'd helped through the foundation and the millions more she'd reach. Each one somebody. Each one worthy. Each one capable of incredible things, if just given a chance. The maid everyone had mocked and humiliated had become something they'd never imagined. Not just a billionaire's daughter, but a voice for the voiceless, a champion for forgotten, a living reminder that every person has a measurable worth. And that was the greatest revenge of all. Not destroying her enemies, but becoming so much more than they could ever diminish. Not meeting cruelty with cruelty, but transforming pain into purpose. Kayamika Chinyu Olamide, the girl who was lost and found, the daughter who came home, the advocate who would change Nigeria, smiled and raised her glass higher. Her story wasn't just about being rescued. It was about rescuing herself, and then using that strength to rescue others. And that story was just beginning. Thanks you for listening. Do well to subscribe to my YouTube channel, like and comment where you re-watching from. See you in my next video.